Ahoy, you salty sailors. Time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr!
There's the walking stick. I leaned against that tree last year. There's no remote wilderness in Iowa, but what there is underutilized and forgotten. And the farmland is so valuable here that 90% of Iowa has been cleared for farming. And so the little bit of forested land that remains is like an island of precious biodiversity in an ocean of monoculture. That's what makes this little forgotten public hunting area a hidden gem. So we'll kick it off with Russula mariae. You noticed the red that was on the stem of that mushroom. Here we have Gyroporus castaneus. I think we've discussed that earlier. Also, Galliella rufa was in that one. Boletus variepes. Now the bugs have hit this one pretty hard. Probably just leave it there. Let it do its thing. There's one that's in better condition. That one will be worth picking. There you can see the reticulation on the stem. It varies. The reticulation is quite variable. This, I think, is Clitophilus prunulus, the miller, in common parlance. I have eaten it before, but over the 4 years of the drought, I've gotten a bit rusty. It does have those lobe-forming tendencies, and it had that farinaceous smell. I wasn't 100% sure, though, and that's a mushroom that can be confused with some poisonous ones. So I left it alone. Here we've got a good flush of chanterelles. It's all about the big oaks. This oak tree I came to last year. It had that old fencing laying around it. And I did a description of Cantharellus flavus and Amanita flaviconia because they were growing side by side. And here, once again, the exact same thing has happened. Here is Cantharellus flavus. Now you'll notice the generally vase-shaped morphology of the fruiting body, and also those false gills, those thickened ridges, rather than the paper-thin gills. Here's an Amanita, possibly Amanita velatipes. Possibly. I mean, there are several other species that it could be. But here is Amanita flaviconia, and you'll notice instead of that vase or funnel shape, it's a regular cap and stem. And of course there's the ring, the annulus around the stem, the bulge at the base, and there's often some flecks of material on the top. Now just a foot away is Cantharellus flavus, which is also a yellow mushroom. So if you were just looking at the tops, it might be easy, or if you were just carelessly picking, it might be easy to confuse the two. So you want to look at the underside. You'll notice that vase shape, that funnel shape with the chanterelle, that distinct cap and stem with the Amanita, and the Amanita having the paper-thin gills, the ring around the stem, and the patches on the top of the cap a lot of times. And of course, chanterelles vary. There's some variation within chanterelles themselves, but they'll never have like a ring around the stem. They'll always have those decurrent false gills. Russula brevipes. Now this is the same place where last year I found a lobster mushroom, and here we have a tiny one coming up. Too tiny to pick or anything, but at least it's there, and that is a Russula brevipes that's been parasitized by Hypomyces lactophorum. Now these witch's cap mushrooms, this is one of the very few places in Iowa where you can even find these mushrooms. Quite rare to see, only where there's moss and ferns and kind of a perpetual dampness. And this Cortinarius, it looked a lot like Cortinarius distans. It's hygrophanous like Cortinarius distans. And this one is Cortinarius distans, but I don't think the other one was. And you could see around the stem on that previous one where the cortina had attached. We did find a hedgehog first hedgehog of the year, a little one out there. I didn't quite know what to think about that puffball. If that's just a really early Calvasia gigantea or what. Wasn't quite certain on that. Again, possibly Amanita volatipes. There's some other ones it could be. This is Licterius argillicifolius, the clay-gilled milky. You'll notice that cap cuticle, fairly substantial. It does exude some kind of a cream-colored latex, those lobe-forming tendencies around the edge of the cap. Meanwhile, Galliella rufa is a cup fungus, an ascomycete. We can tickle it into releasing a cloud of spores. Watch carefully here. There. Did you see it? So, lots of fun games to be had out there in the forest with Galliella rufa. There it is. One more time. There. Here we have an agaricoid, Agaricus most likely, possibly Xanthodermis. Let's cut it open and see what happens. Okay, we are seeing some yellow, not a whole lot, especially not around the base of the mushroom, but where it's been scratched, it has also turned yellow. So we're going to go ahead and call this Agaricus xanthodermis. They appear to be breaking down the material that drops below the eastern red cedars, which are quite thick in this area, fewer oaks. This is one of the fetid russulas, and it had quite an acrid, a sickly sweet acrid smell to it. Very, not too pleasant. And look how thick and slimy that cap cuticle was. Just an unpleasant mushroom all around. There's the summer oyster. It has a bit more of a stem than Pleurotus austriatus, and of course it comes up during the warmer months of the year. This is probably Lexinellum crocopodium, not quite wrinkly enough to be Regosciceps, and you'll see the pore layer is a bit more beveled around the edges of it, giving it that really Lexinum look. Here's a Chlorociboria stain on a stump of wood. Didn't see a fruiting body, but there we have wood betony. Now that's a hemiparasite. It uses the fungal mycelial network underground to get part of its nutrition from trees. And the fungi are a middleman. So whenever you see that plant, there are fungal mycelium active in the soil. Here we have the common funnel, and there's several lookalikes. Pretty sure that's what it is. There's Old Man of the Woods, Strobelomyces strobelaceus. We'll just ignore the russula growing next to it, and we're going to pop open that expose a little bit of the cat flesh here and observe the stain that occurs. It's kind of a rusty reddish type of stain that occurs with the Old Man of the Woods. It is a bolete mushroom. There you can see the pore surface on the underside. Back with the Boletus variepes, that one's pretty firm. Seems like the bugs haven't completely destroyed it. And now just for a run of chanterelles. Lots of chanterelles out there to be picking. Lots of tremendous chanterelles. Insects got that one, but that one hasn't even been touched. It's a pure, clean chanterelle. You don't see that too often. Now this, of course, here's the bulge at the base of the stem. We will observe that. Observe the ring around the stem, the annulus, and that more or less bald, shiny, white dome type of cap. That is Amanita bisporigera, the death angel. 100% fatal, there is no cure. Licterius, back with the Licterius argillicifolius. Gonna go ahead and scratch this one a bit, and we'll see, we'll observe that latex if the lighting is favorable. Now, I think last year I carried it around for a while, and that latex did eventually turn to like a black or a dark brown color. Another chanterelle run here, just one after another. It's all about those big oaks pushing up those chanterelles. And we did have a quite large Lactarius volemus. That's a fairly choice edible too. One of the bigger ones I've ever found. Got the Russula virescens, the green Russula. I mean, the concept of a mushroom is strange enough. A sudden messenger from a hidden world of decay and recycling. But some mushrooms, of course, just are a whole other level of strange. And of course, this purple fellow is a young Tylopolis rubrobruneus. Confirmation bias can affect every area of your thinking, including identifying mushrooms. You want to think of ways to test yourself. Think of ways to question what you think you know. You perceive reality through a filter, not as it really is. Get ready for a chanterelle run. We're just lining them up and filling the bag. Some of these the insects had hit pretty hard, but some of them were in great condition. Hardly anything had touched them at all. And those ones there look pretty good. Did I just say good? And here, of course, those blunt false gills, the blunt ridges. Now, once again, growing right next to it, Amanita flaviconia, and some red-capped russulas. These are red-capped russulas, but once again, I think this is Russula mariae. Just that kind of powdery bloom that's on the cap, and the fact that the stem is red. The stem is not white, it's red. So that's what's making, I mean, there are several that it could be as well. Lots of red-capped russulas out there. Very hard to identify some of them without going to a microscopic or DNA analysis, but I'm going to guess that that's Russula mariae based on the powdery bloom and the red stem. All right, strap in for the lightning round. If you've made it this far in the video, you deserve a little treat, and that is Lactarius indigo. Yes, sir. There's the cap, looks like. There's the underside, the gills. What do you think the inside of this mushroom looks like, the flesh? Yes, sir. It is bright blue. That's not any trick of the light or anything. This is just a flat-out blue mushroom. Here's Calabolitus inedulus. And by the way, Lactarius indigo, one of the rarest ones to find in Iowa. This one, that color, the flesh of it is white, but then when it's exposed to oxygen, there's chemistry in there that turns blue. Here, Hemiluxinum subglabipes turns yellow. And of course, Beringia bicolor is also one that stains blue, but generally just in the pore layer. It kind of breaks the rule of thumb because it has a red cap and yellow pore layer, and it does stain blue on the pores. But here you can see the flesh does not stain that much. It's just in the pore. You know, it's in the pore layer where the staining occurs. And the smell, it's impossible to describe. You just have to have someone who knows what it is give you one and smell it. The smell is also a key identifying factor. Here's a mushroom that's just dripping with slime, Suillus granulatus. There's Lexinellum rugossiceps. Now, some of these could be Crocopodium. When it's young, it looks like this. You know, that's almost certainly rugossiceps. Harder to say with this one. Perhaps the stem is a little too scabbred. This one is Lactifluus hygrophoroides. You notice the gill spacing is a little bit more distant than Lactarius volemus or Lactifluus volemus, and it does not exude quite as much latex as volemus does, and it's kind of a brighter orange on the cap, orange on the stem, more distant gills, less latex.